Hey guys, how's it going? Forecastman here. And with Pokemon Sun and Moon just around the corner, it's time to say goodbye with one last ORAS OU battle. This one is against my good friend Nelavar, and I'm using my Volcarona team. So to start off with, of course, we have the Life Orb Volcarona. I use Life Orb over Bulky variant because it has more coverage options. I can run Giga Drain, which is good for Keldeo and some other water types. I have defensive Lando T with the Rocky Helmet over the leftovers because Rocky Helmet lets me bluff the Choice Scarf in some situations. I can play mind games with my opponent. I also have Mega Manectric with Hidden Power Ice and Flamethrower. Mega Manectric has a lot of good coverage options. It's also really good for countering flying types like Talonflame. Has Hidden Power Ice for things like Lando T. Flamethrower for things like Ferrothorn that will try to switch in. Just really good and really good paired with Volcarona. It's just amazing. Then I have Choice Banded Azumarill. I have Choice Band because otherwise Tank Garchomp really puts in the work. Something like Assault Vest just wouldn't cover it. It wouldn't knock it out, and Garchomp would knock me out instead. So that's why I had to go with the Choice Band. But it puts in a lot of work. It destroys a lot of teams. It can do Heatran. It can be a good offensive switch into Keldeo. Instead, if I don't want to go into Volcarona, I can do Azumarill into Keldeo, threaten him out with my Play Rough. And I have Ferrothorn. This is my own Ferrothorn set. I'm sassy natured with max special defense. I have Curse, Leech Seed, Power Whip, and Gyro Ball. This beats other Ferrothorns 1-on-1. It's good against a lot of water types too. It can also take a surprising amount of actual fire attacks, which can let me get some chip off damage and let Volcarona sweep later. Then of course with Volcarona on your team you need something with Defog, and I have Latias as my Defogger. It has Draco Meteor as well and Healing Wish in case I need to get Volcarona back up, or any of my other Pokemon I need to heal them back up. But yeah, you definitely need that Defog with Volcarona. It takes half of its HP if it switches into Stealth Rocks. So yeah, it's pretty devastating. And then Nelavar is using a pretty good team too, especially the Heatran. Volcarona's biggest weakness is Heatran. No matter what set of Volcarona you use, Heatran is always going to be dangerous, so that's really what I'm going to be trying to play around this game. So without further ado, let's get into the battle. I'm going to lead off with Azumarill as he ends up leading off with Tyranitar. Now because the superpower is really obvious and he can go into Sableye or Starmie, I go for the Play Rough instead, but ends up going into a Ferrothorn, which really punishes me for that over prediction, unfortunately. It's okay though, I have Manectric. I can threaten him out with a Flamethrower, and Manectric doesn't really do anything this battle anyway, so a little bit of extra damage, not going to kill me. He does have Heatran though, so I can't risk going for a Flamethrower, so I have to Volt Switch instead. I ended up getting the free switch into my Landorus, which is really good against this Heatran. Now I can either kill him or get any damage off onto his next Pokemon, and it ends up being his Ferrothorn. Now, I have my own Ferrothorn to tank hits for days, as, my Ferrothorn is a perfect 1v1 against other Ferrothorns because they cannot kill it and I can just keep setting up with Curse. However, he ends up setting up his spikes. Again, I have a Latias, I'll be fine. As long as I can defog those spikes away, it's all good. I'm at +2 now. Now I'm going to start to see how much damage I can actually do to this thing. He gets up his third layer of spikes, and Gyro Ball does absolutely zero. But because that's his third layer of spikes, I know he's going to be switching out, so I'm just going to Leech Seed whatever's going to want to come in, which ends up catching his Heatran. It's not bad. Getting a chip damage onto this Heatran is key for Volcarona sweeping. Because I want to resist the Lava Plume and defog these rocks at the same time, I go into Latias, but he makes an amazing double into his Tyranitar, which Pursuit traps my Latias, and now my Latias is doomed. It is not long for this world, but it gets off a last-minute Draco Meteor, which crits, actually. There's a lot of damage to that Tyranitar, but Pursuit will take it down, unfortunately. Azumarill will come back in, and he gets up his Stealth Rocks, but I'm not playing any games anymore. I'm going to Superpower. However, those Stealth Rocks are pretty huge. Volcarona is pretty weak to those Stealth Rocks now. And because I'm Choice Banded, he knows this. He goes free into his Sableye, and I go into my Manectric to take the Will-O-Wisp. As I said, Manectric doesn't really do much, so a little bit of extra damage isn't too big of a deal. Plus the burn, it really isn't a big deal for Manectric either. I can do a lot of damage to him. But he switches into his Chansey, which does absolutely nothing. Chansey is so fat when it comes to special defense. However, I'm going to Volt Switch and go into my Ferrothorn because Chansey can't touch Ferrothorn to save its life. As you can see, Seismic does decent damage, but the Iron Barbs almost does as much damage back to Chansey, and there's no way of recovery like I do. He goes into his Heatran, and I end up Leech Seeding it for the second time. Again, more damage on Heatran I'm perfectly okay with. However, I don't want my Ferrothorn to die. My Manectric, on the other hand, is completely expendable, and I have to sack Manectric here in order to get the safe switch into my Landorus. Now, I know he's going to switch out, and I want to get extra chip damage onto this Heatran later, so I'm going to set up some Stealth Rocks. And Earthquake this Chansey because its defense is doo-doo. He ends up toxicking me, which isn't too big of a deal, and I can just kill it with the next Earthquake. And now he goes into his Sableye, and again, I'm not really sure what he wants to do with the Sableye, so I'm just going to stay in anyway, and Earthquake. And he knocks me off, but that's fine. Landorus has plenty of health, it has plenty of defense, it is plenty bulky. But at this point, the Toxic is starting to hurt a lot, so I'm going to U-turn out of there as he goes into his Ferrothorn, which actually lets me go into my Azumarill. And this time, I'm going to predict correctly. Instead of going for the Superpower, I'm going to go for the Play Rough, which catches his Starmie on the switch, which is absolutely incredible. He goes back into his Ferrothorn again, because I'm Choice Banded. I'm going to switch into my own Ferrothorn, and this is basically the same situation we were in before, where he's just going to set up his Spikes, and I'm just going to set up with my Curse. However, I'm getting life back with my Leftover, so that's nice too. Yeah, and he gets up his third layer Spikes, I'm going to get my second Curse, and we're exactly back to where we were a few minutes ago. However, this time when he switches into his Heatran, he's going to take Stealth Rocks damage, plus this Power Whip, which does 15%. It's actually not too bad. Again, any damage on this Heatran is all I want. His Lava Plume actually doesn't kill Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn is so bulky, and I end up getting even more damage onto this Heatran, which is just incredible. I will die to the second Lava Plume, and now it's time for Landorus to come back, because now I really need this Heatran dead. And he actually protects to try to get me to have less health from the Toxic. However, it's not enough to kill me. It's a Toxic Poison. If it was a regular poison, I would have died. But since it's a Toxic Poison, it doesn't kill me. He doesn't get the double protect. And actually his Heatran goes down, and this is huge. This means Volcarona comes in literally for free. And Volcarona cleans up at this point. Ferrothorn can't survive the Fiery Dance. Sableye doesn't have enough health. It's almost dead as it is. And Volcarona just wins this game. So, yeah. I hope you guys are as excited for Pokemon Sun and Moon as I am. And I'll see you guys in Generation 7.